Damn, we thought Orlando MLP had controversy, but we outdid ourselves this weekend with Ben and Collin's surprise withdrawal, Kate's shocking language, and some crazy MLP results. MLP was back in Columbus, Ohio at Pickle and Chill, which I think is an iconic MLP venue. I was actually able to win MLP with BLQK there back in 2022, and the murals make it look sick. So, Thursday saw the introduction of the St. Louis Shock's new security team, which I think was an expert-level troll. The Phoenix Flames beat the Carolina Hogs in a Dream Breaker, the Shock took care of the Bouncers, and Columbus, without the hometown hero CJ Klinger due to illness, took down Phoenix in a Dream Breaker with the help of Roscoe Bellamy. Then Friday happened, and all hell broke loose. The Hogs, playing without Caitlin Christian, actually got their first women's doubles victory of the year. Ben and Collin lost a good match to Jaume and Todd, and then things got ugly. Ben checked out.
Incredibly well.
Not an easy feat.
They lost their mixed doubles match 11-1. Collin and Liz lost 11-2, and then shortly afterwards, they notified MLP that they wouldn't be participating for the remainder of the weekend, and social media erupted. I'll get to my tweet, MLP's statement, the Johns' statement, and the whole ordeal in the second half of this video, so if that's what you came for, feel free to skip ahead. Without Ben and Collin, the Hogs scrambled for alternates. From what I understand, Ross Whitaker drove to the venue and quickly signed an MLP contract just so that he could fill in for the Hogs. Their afternoon match had to be delayed so that they could even get players on the court. Chicago grabbed their first win of the year over Atlanta, the Hustlers took out Phoenix in a surprise, and the Orlando Squeeze swept Columbus at home. Also, by mid-afternoon, we had an excellent troll from this dude who somehow printed out a shirt within like 4 hours. Nothing too out of the ordinary happened on Saturday, with the exception of the end of the Squeeze and Shock match. I couldn't really tell what happened, but at the end of the match between Kate and Gabe and Fed and Lacey, the Shock were called for a distraction fault on a point that they won to win the match.
Match point.
I'm calling a distraction on the St. Louis bench for a verbal outbreak before the end of a rally.
They ended up winning the next point, and Kate Fahey allegedly called Federico a bitch. I honestly couldn't really hear this one, and Fed didn't seem too bothered by it, so I'm not sure what'll happen from here. Finally, on Sunday, St. Louis absolutely rolled, losing 11 points in 8 games against the Hustlers and the Flames. Through 2 events, standings are kind of about as expected, the only surprise being the Squeeze outperforming expectations and the Sliders underperforming. Now for the Ben and Collin breakdown. MLP issued a nothing statement saying that they'll deal with this after the weekend, which makes sense not to detract from the event itself. Ben also issued a statement via his Instagram account. To quickly paraphrase, Ben and Collin withdrew due to safety concerns due to measurably bad lighting. They conducted their own light measurements and found that they weren't close to the lighting standards required by the ATP Tour. Lighting is a recurring issue at tour events, and Ben sustained a childhood injury that makes him particularly susceptible to poor lighting conditions. He decided to withdraw for his own safety. You probably weren't expecting to hear this, but I agree with Ben Johns. When Annalie Waters, Ben Johns, and others decided not to play singles at the PPA North Carolina Open due to the danger of playing on rollout courts, I actually supported him. Had Ben decided to pull out of the event prior to tanking, I would have supported him, but there are a bunch of gaping holes in his argument, and I have a lot more questions than I have answers at this point. First, he doesn't address the blatant tanking. That's the main problem here. That's not okay under any circumstances, regardless of conditions. How does Ben standing defenseless with his paddle down at the kitchen line help his safety? If he's worried about getting hit in the eye, why wouldn't he wear safety glasses like his brother Collin? What's Collin's reason for pulling out of the event? And last but certainly not least, was it too dangerous to support his teammates during their next matches? Pickle and Chill, the venue hosting the event, actually issued a statement as well, the most notable part reading, "Our facility has a long-standing reputation for hosting elite competition, including 8 ATP and WTA professional events, and we were home to the Ohio State's Division I championship tennis program for over 15 years. Now, you can point to the fact that Ben's team isn't great, which is true, but if there's anybody that can demand a trade in pickleball, it would be Ben Johns. If you're a pro pickleball player or a fan of pro pickleball, you have to realize that we're skating on somewhat thin ice. Pro pickleball remains unproven as a business, and this type of behavior from the greatest men's player of all time significantly damages the reputation of the league and the reputation of pro pickleball as a whole. Anyway, while the Hogs brought us some controversy, they also brought us a phenomenal feel-good story, which gets back to the heart and soul of Major League Pickleball. Anybody can beat anybody on a given day. So the Hogs faced the Chicago Slice Saturday with 3 alternates, including local Ohio players Ross Whitaker and Zoe Wheel. Martin Emmerich stepped in on the men's side as well. Under the new alternate rule, they started men's doubles and both mixed doubles matches down 1-0. Down 1 match to 2, Martin Emmerich played with his wife Tammy, and they were able to beat a really good team of James Ignatowicz and Vivian David 14-12 to force a Dreambreaker. Once again, since they were using 3 players that weren't part of their roster, they started the Dreambreaker down 3-0 and were able to climb back to a narrow 19-21 loss against the Slice, which is why we all love Major League Pickleball.